notifications set up where it would ping me and let me know when somebody answered an email or they read it. I'd send an email out and I'd get pings for 4 hours. I think the judge's clock is a couple of seconds behind. There we go.
You ready?
I'm ready if you are.
It's 6:30. We're going to call Airport Lands and Buildings Committee to order. Clerk, would you please take roll?
Ms. Lang? Mr. Neff?
Here.
Mr. R. Smith?
Here.
We have a summary of proceedings from February 18th.
Make a motion we approve.
I will second that motion. Clerk, could you please take roll?
Mr. Neff?
Yes.
Mr. R. Smith?
Yes.
On to new business, we have one item of new business. It's a discussion revolving around added security at city council meetings and city planning meetings.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Added security for city council, committee, and other meetings held in the furtherance of city council ancillary committees. This is a topic that's been discussed many times over the years, and it's felt by me as well as the City Hall Security Committee that it's time to act on this matter and do something about it and not kick the can down the road anymore. Not having a security person in place for the meetings puts everyone in council chambers at risk, as well as those in City Hall the following day. Currently, we have no idea, after the doors are unlocked, like tonight at 6 o'clock, who comes into the building while we're all up here, and none of those persons are screened by security. This is problematic, as anyone can enter undetected while the meeting is in progress and have free reign to roam throughout the building. The building is also not cleared prior to the doors being locked at the end of the night by the clerk of council. This building's security is not really the responsibility of the clerk of council. The City Hall Security Committee met on April 21st, 2025 to discuss the issue. The City Hall Security Committee consists of myself, the Chief of Police, the Safety Director, the Service Director, and a Municipal Court Bailiff. It was a unanimous verdict that we should implement change to our security procedures as quickly as possible for the safety of all who work in or visit this building. It was determined by that security, it was determined during that meeting that a security screener should be present for all city council or affiliated meetings. All non-City of Marion employees will be screened prior to being allowed to go past the security desk. All elected officials are considered city employees, so that wouldn't include you guys going through the screening. The security screener, our plan is that the security screener will unlock the doors 30 minutes prior to the start of such meeting and will lock the doors and clear the building 30 minutes after the conclusion of the meeting. The security screener will clear the third floor, the second floor, and the first floor prior to securing and leaving the building. The 30-minute period following the end of the meeting will allow for conversation to take place between stakeholders, office holders, constituents, and office holder to office holder. This should be ample time for those interactions to take place. If extended discussions are needed, all council persons' information, their email, their phone number, the address, is found on the back of the agenda for any further communication that might be needed. The addition of the security screener will be accomplished by adding a few hours a week to a current part-time employee schedule. So we already have 2 part-time security screeners that work during the day. This employee will continue to be part-time and the cost associated with this addition will be absorbed by the police department. Police department, by the police department's budget, as that is where those people currently are, is under the police department budget. We anticipate no additional appropriation would be needed with this addition for those extra hours absorbed by the police department. We have meetings. Police department meetings for by the police department's budget, as that is where those people currently are. Planning meetings, police department. Any meetings that take place that are. We anticipate no additional appropriation absorbed by the police department. We have meetings. Police department meetings for by the police department's budget, as that is where those people. I scheduled this discussion tonight to allow meetings that take place that hear the plan, have input. Adding any ideas that they feel may be better. Any ideas they feel may better the process, or anything that we've discussed tonight that they think might need tweaked a little bit. But I think that they would be interested in the overall security here at City Hall. This change does not require legislation to take effect, and the start date is set to begin on May 12th, the next full council meeting. And I'd be glad to answer any questions that you guys might have.
Anything from the committee?
No, I have nothing at this time.
Anything from the public at this point?
My name is Greg, 365 Silver Street. I wore my little Washington DC shirt tonight because this was purchased at the U.S. Capitol, and I noticed that, I hear the laughter, who cares? I noticed that the 15-minute time limit got changed to 30. Funny thing is that today I was thinking of all the things that we could or couldn't do in 15 minutes, and I timed myself in the restroom because a lot of times we have to go to the bathrooms after these meetings, and it took me almost 5 minutes in the bathroom. So if I'm in the bathroom after this meeting, wash my hands and do all the things you're supposed to do in the restroom, I've now eaten up 5 minutes of time to talk to one of my representatives. And if my representative's not here and she wouldn't talk to me anyway, but if one of the other representatives that are helpful is able to speak to me, they might be busy speaking to one of their other constituents and not have the chance to speak with me until 20 minutes into the conversation. But last week, there was a statement made the other night about how it's not up to me to stick up for the rights of other people. And I would disagree with that it is actually up to all of us to defend the rights of others, like free speech and freedom of the press, because that really what this seems like, is you opposing, suppressing our rights. And, the United States is actually, the very principle that we're built on is freedom of speech and standing up against tyranny and the right to redress our public officials. And Edward Burke, he said, all tyranny needs to gain a foothold is people of good conscience to remain silent. And I brought my son here with me tonight so he could see democracy in action and see someone standing up against something that they don't believe is right and believe is true. And everyone talks about how young people need to learn history. I think it's maybe actually the adults that need a reminder. The United States, we started with the Revolutionary War. There was a Declaration of Independence from England because we were tired of them not letting us speak, not letting us have press, taking our taxes, wasting our money. And the end of the Declaration, written by Thomas Jefferson, was closed by saying, "We pledge our sacred honor, our lives, and our very fortunes." And it was signed by 56 founding fathers of the United States. Another time we stuck up for the rights of the other Americans was during the Civil War, when we abolished slavery for all the people that had been less than for so many centuries. That was other Americans sticking up for the rights of Americans. We fought in World War I. My family has World War II veterans. My son is very proud of the fact that he had two grandfathers that were in World War II. My father was a World War II veteran. Luckily, he didn't see action. I guess he only heard it because he was in the bottom of an aircraft carrier working on the machinery to keep the aircraft carrier going as planes and bombs and everything else were surrounding him. My husband's grandfather was at Iwo Jima. He wasn't actually on the island, but he was on one of the hospital ships. Grandpa would never talk about what happened at Iwo Jima. We all wondered why. After he passed, we found the notes. The official Navy document talks about bodies piling up, the dead, the wounded, being brought to the ship, how they were cutting off dog tags and the rings to sit in the back, to the widows and the mothers of these men that had lost their lives. You know, when we were in Washington, D.C. visiting the Capitol, which elicited a snicker from this side of the room, we went through Arlington National Cemetery. My son went through Arlington National Cemetery. 600 acres of people that sacrificed their life, of why we're still free, of why we can stand up here and speak and we can redress our government, and that the press has the right to attend these meetings and conduct interviews in a public building. There's so many things that could be said, but I want you all in here to explain to a teenager why 17 and 18-year-olds, because my dad was 17 when he went to World War II. My husband's grandfather was 18 years old when he was being bombed and shelled and watching people die. And I want you to explain to him that why 17 and 18-year-olds risking their lives in war, they were willing to do that. You all aren't willing to let us stick around a building for 1 hour because you're afraid. I don't want anyone to be unsafe. I'm the person that gets picked by the airport screener every time I go through the metal detector for extra screening. I have no problem with that. I do have a problem with our speech being suppressed. I do have a problem with the building being closed so the press cannot conduct interviews with our blabbermouth representatives. And I want you also to explain to this teenager sitting back here why his mother is continuously being accused of a felony for asking tough questions and exercising her First Amendment right. And I also want to know why public officials are exempt from going through those metal detectors, because if you can Google stories right now, there's plenty of public officials that go crazy and attack constituents, fellow employees, everything else. So none of you should be exempt from what you want the peasants to do.
And a number of those public employees.
Sir, can I have your name and
Terry
address, please?
Klein, 400 East George Street. Love your city, Marion. To add on to what she said, there are plenty of public employees who have been caught stealing luggage in airports. So if you have this scanner, everyone should go through it. But I'm curious, has the mayor, safety director, chief of police, all of those people on the safety committee, have they been in communication with Homeland Security? Is there heightened interest in Al-Qaeda, ISIS, any Mexican cartels that are planning to attack? I'm curious why such a rush, and even though it's been in the planning stages for a period of time, let's get serious. We have security. Have you no faith in the Marion City Police Department, one floor below us? People already being paid by the hour. And with City Council, where's the sergeant at arms? 1 hour isn't asking a whole heck of a lot. We used to have a community room. It's now been turned into a courtroom. This courtroom, this council chambers, that's now your community room. This is where voices of the people that elect everyone should have a say, and it's not asking a lot to have 1 hour after a city council meeting. As a former comparative studies professor said, and he had a heavy Spanish accent, squeeze your brains. Please, think this through. Thank you.
I just have to respond to one thing he said, and I've heard it from a lot of other people. We got a police department just one floor below this, where we're at now. You know how often somebody's down there? Not very often. They're out on the street fighting crime and doing the things they're supposed to be doing, contrary to the Snickers in the room. They're out doing what they're supposed to be doing. They're very seldom actually downstairs unless they're here to turn in a report or see a lieutenant. So to say that we have all this security downstairs, we don't. There's hardly anybody ever down there. They're out on the street. I just wanted to clear that misconception up.
That is a sad state of affairs. Nobody down there, very rarely. What happens when somebody really needs a cop? They try to come into the building. You know, it's sad enough that I don't know what door do you knock on to get the attention of the police department. And if no one's down there, then they should really seriously consider staffing issues. Come on, people, this is not rocket science. This is just, squeeze your brains, please. Thank you.
Sorry about my hair, guys. It's been windy out there. On the annual 608 Decatur Street, not necessarily the same thing, but back on the 10th of April, there was a thief that attempted to cross the street. It's an abandoned home. It's owned by U.S. Bank. It's been sitting for a year. The person that used to live there surrendered to the bank. And so I've been on their butt for the last year. The service that Safeguard is, whoever they are, they're the ones supposed to be monitoring the house, about keeping the grass cut, because my neighbor across the street had been doing that for 7 years previously, because the person that used to, well, it was a convoluted case, wouldn't maintain her yard. So now you got trees in it, you got branches in it, and basically I've been on their butt about taking care of their affairs. There's been a car that's been sitting across the street, an abandoned car, for the last 7 years. And so while they asked me why, if my vehicles work, this car has been sitting for 7 years in across the street, 615 Decatur, right across from me. And I have to sit there and call them and sit there and let them know what's going on here, because it's like you've got the 8-inch or higher grass root. Well, if they don't sit there and bring it out, it's going to turn into a hayfield. And those banks don't care. So I have to call them. I have to stay on their butt. Well, the 10th of April, and I remember it because I had to do my taxes then, this thief, broad daylight, 10 minutes of 3 in the afternoon, because I'm supposed to be at my appointment at 3 o'clock, goes right out of his car and cuts the lines to the air conditioner. Now, I'm probably sure that thing hasn't worked in years, but I mean, he sits there and starts cutting the lines, and of course, I'm not too nice about it. I asked him what's going on. I said, what's he doing over there? And he sits there and makes up some kind of story that he belongs to a heating and air conditioning company, which I dealt with them. I know it's not. I run him off, I take down the plate number, I do everything that I'm supposed to do. I call the police department, I give him his plate number, he gives me a false name, he said his name is Cody.
Mr. Daniels?
Yes.
Is this related to the agenda topic? Because I'm not seeing it. Is this related to this agenda topic?
Do I get 3 minutes to speak, sir, or
You've already had 3 minutes. Is this related to the agenda topic?
to the agenda topic? I don't have anything against it. I mean, they should have already had security down there in the first place.
Mr. Daniels, I'm not even sure you're addressing the right committee at this point.
I'm sorry?
I'm not even sure you're addressing the proper committee tonight.
Aren't you on several of the committees, sir?
Yes, sir.
So,
This is the Airport Lands and Buildings Committee right now.
well, most of these gentlemen and ladies are part of this, are part of the same group. I mean, the mayor's here. I mean, they were talking about, I'm not trying to slam on anybody, but as I said, I did everything right, and this guy is still walking around. Now, of course, I'll sit down, and the next committee that comes along and says this, I'll get up and I'll say it again. But, it's just, it's annoying, a little bit. But yes, I'll sit down. It didn't really have anything to do with it. But if you want me to sit down, I'll sit there and wait for the next budget to come on. I'll say it all over again. They can hear it all over again.
How much more time you need, Mr. Daniels?
What's that?
How much more time you need, Mr. Daniels?
Not very long. But as I said, I did everything I was supposed to do. I called the sheriff, the okay, I didn't call 911, I called 2525. Gave him all the information. And because he was out of Hardin County, I also contacted the Sheriff's Department in Hardin County. And I contacted Safeguard. And a few days ago, I sat there and I saw him running around, taking stuff out of the dumpster, freezing it. And I contacted the department again. Now, I don't have any evidence of this, I'm afraid, because I didn't bring out my pad and sit there and film it. As I said, I had to run. But I just feel, and I kind of feel that, it's a minor issue. I realize that it's not like I'm trying to bust a drug cartel or something like that. There's thieves around here, and they sit there and do this for drugs.
Mr. Daniels, I will look at that calls for service, and I will call you tomorrow and let you know what happened, and if there was something that we could have done better.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Jason Schauber, Third Ward City Council. About the topic at hand, the security or closing. So you asked for input, and I'll respect that, and ask. So 2 speakers got up and asked for an hour after a meeting. I believe you stated a half an hour after the meeting. Is there somewhere in the middle we can meet? What's wrong with an hour, I guess, should be my first question.
I think an hour's too long. I think we talked about 15 minutes and we extended it to 30 to try to accommodate for people, and if they can't get their business done in 30 minutes, then there's multiple other ways that they can contact the council people if they need to.
Okay, so hard no on an hour.
Well, we're already saying some nights, Jason, we're here until we're 3 hours into a meeting, and then you want the person to stay another full hour afterwards when one person may stay, or nobody may stay, or 20 people may stay. So if one person doesn't stay, then are they still supposed to stay for a whole hour?
I'm not for sure why we're getting upset or confrontational.
I'm not upset, and I don't know why you always accuse me of that. I'm not upset, I'm not confrontational. I'm just trying to say that I think an hour's too long.
Who is the one person that has to stay?
The security screener will have to stay.
Okay.
And right now, we have it set up for her to work 3 to 4 extra hours on those nights that we have meetings.
And as you're very well aware that council members do not have offices in City Hall. So this is our time that we can meet with people. Can we get offices then? So we can meet people? Because otherwise it's at our house or in the parking lot or in their driveways.
I don't know where you find offices here. I had to put Tommy in an office out of the storeroom from a copier into a shared office with Casey Courtright just so we had room for him.
And we have 9 council members and council president. So
You're welcome to come up and use my conference room anytime you want or
I
anything.
appreciate that. So there's no budgeting whatsoever on the time after, and that's strictly because of is it the salary we're paying the screener or requiring them to be here?
I think it's coming up with a realistic amount of time of what would be realistic for people to stay after a meeting. And it wasn't just my discussion, it was a discussion between the City Hall Safety Committee, and everybody thought a half hour was more than generous to allow people to get their items done that they needed to get done.
When did the security screeners and the bailiffs stop doing sweeps prior to the business day? 'Cause when the screeners went in, that was part of a Supreme Court ruling, if I'm not mistaken, that mandated that there has to be security screeners for municipal courts or all courts. And I believe at the time that since council either opted out or wasn't offered to have security screeners during our meetings, bailiffs, I believe, did a sweep prior to the business day, and the security screeners did a sweep prior to their day of City Hall.
I don't know about bailiffs, but the security screeners have never done sweeps of City Hall.
Wouldn't that make sense?
I think to answer that a little bit, and not to be confrontational, I'm not upset, is the
Is that
fact
what I understand?
that there's things much different today than even there was 2 or 3 years ago. Number one, we used to have a prisoner elevator that's right back here that brought prisoners from the Sally Port straight up to a holding room where they stayed until they came into court. That elevator has been broke down for 2 years at least, maybe more. It's 170-some thousand to fix it, and we just haven't had the money yet. They are trying to get a grant to fix it because I think it's very important. But now prisoners come in, they come up through the front elevator or the stairwell, and they're in a common area where everybody else was at the night before. So I'm going back to like a council meeting night. If somebody wanted to sneak in out there while we're all up here having council, they could put a knife in a trash can or under a seat or something like that, and we would be no the wiser. So things have changed a little bit for us to kind of rethink that, and like I said, this is something that's been talked about for a long time that I can remember, and we've just never taken the step to do it. So it's really not about restricting anybody's access to their elected officials. We just felt that in the meeting we had, that we started out at 15, maybe that's too short, let's go to 30. 30 ought to be an ample amount of time for people to talk to each other and do what they need to do. And then that'll allow her, then after they're gone, to go through the building on the 3rd floor, 2nd floor, make sure nobody is, stayed behind, and clear the building and then lock the door.
And so if it sounds like it's staying at 30 minutes after the meeting, could you walk me through how that works in reality? So the gavel hits to adjourn.
Then that person, usually the chief or his representative is here, will let the screener know that the meeting's officially over, and we'll stop there. It's not going to be like on a stopwatch.
Well, that's what I'm getting at.
We'll start the 30-minute approximate time where she'll come up and say, look, you guys got 5 minutes left, and we got to clear the building or whatever. So I just think that it's a very reasonable amount of time. We're not trying to keep anybody from using the facilities, for a half hour after the meeting.
And just playing a scenario out, if someone refused to leave, and then are you trespassed at that point, or have you thought that far
Look,
ahead?
we don't want to charge anybody with trespassing, but I think if you're asking for a legal opinion, once the security person says, look, you're 30 minutes over, you got to clear the building, and if somebody just says, I refuse to leave, then at that point you'd be trespassing. And she'll have a radio, and she'll be able to call one of the policemen that are probably not on station to come to the station to help her deal with that.
So it will just be the security part-timer, and there won't be another special duty police
There will
officer
not be.
like there is during the day?
There will not be. It'll just be the security screener with a radio, and she'll operate the screening, the security checkpoints just like she does during the day.
I really hope that between now and, you said the 12th,
Yeah.
that you would really consider at least try an hour and see how that goes. And you'll probably find that people won't even stick around for that full hour. And that will take away some of the angst from some people that think their speech is suppressed. I mean, a little bit of courtesy would probably benefit us all. If you could just consider maybe trying Monday an hour and see how it goes.
Thank you.
Hello, Ayers Ratliff, Second Ward City Council. I'll just offer this as a compromise, I think, maybe for everyone, because I don't think this is even council's decision or choice. I think that the mayor can do this on his own. And so it's good that he brought this to us and in public to get everybody's opinion. So if we have a 30-minute timeline, is there a possibility that we would have even a form drawn up that the person would come up and say, hey, it's 8:30 now, the half an hour's over. You're talking to two people here, Mr. Neff, will you take responsibility for these two? And you write their name and sign the paper that you are taking great responsibility, and you will make sure that they exit the building before that you do. And I think everybody could be served with that type of a compromise, that we have a 30-minute open time, and then, as long as somebody takes responsibility for somebody else that is an elected official, that they are here talking to them, that we could get everybody served and, have everything done and be safe the whole time. Because if we're truly concerned about safety, and you're here talking to somebody, then, could you then go back to their house and meet with them there? Yes, if you needed more time. Where are you safer? I'm going to say here. Now, I would feel fine either way, but if we're doing this because we feel that there's a safety issue, we're safer keeping you here. And so that's going to be the compromise that I offer.
Yes.
Just so I can give you a little bit of some of the information that I found reaching out to other cities to ask them what they're doing. I reached out to Findlay, and actually before I start, let me tell you that the 6 cities that I contacted, nobody had a policy in place that directly addressed this issue. I contacted the mayor's office in Findlay. I explained to them, that we were kind of deciding on a time after the meeting. 30 minutes prior seems to be okay with everyone. When I mentioned an hour, the mayor's office in Findlay told me they thought that was excessive, was the word that they used. Tiffin, the same thing. The word they used, I talked to Nick Dutro, who's the city administrator in Tiffin. The word he used was unreasonable when I mentioned an hour. Marysville, I talked to the mayor's office, and her comment wasn't the mayor, but in the mayor's assistant said, "Oh wow, we wouldn't do that," when I mentioned an hour. Mansfield, same thing, 30 minutes. They said everybody no later than 30 minutes. Bucyrus, I talked to the safety director in Bucyrus. He said he's shooing people out and locking the doors in 10 minutes. And then I talked to the chief of staff in Lima, Shane Coleman, and he agreed that 30 minutes was more than reasonable. So I guess just to kind of give you that background, there's nobody that has a direct policy addressing this, and I just feel like we're trying to be, proactive on this instead of a reactive situation where do you want to wait till something happens and then decide we want to put security measures in place after something bad happens? So, but that's why we're here, is to talk about it.
Aaron Hollis, Council at Large. Just a couple questions. One, will our badges still be active? Everyone's badges, they're still elected officials, city employees?
That's not going to change.
Okay. Is there something similar? Because Well, I hear the concerns, and I share some of them with regards to safety. I do have concern that we are limiting the press to some regard. Is there a possibility of getting them some type of a press pass or a media pass so that they have access to come here and speak with us?
They'd be subject to background check.
How much restricted under the building?
If they were to meet a council member, correct.
I probably wouldn't be in favor of that.
Thank
Just
you.
on a security basis.
Okay, thank you.
Reminds me of the Chicken Little boy who cried wolf. If the safety is the issue, and you need someone, and someone who is probably already being paid since their own salary, wouldn't it make sense to make the safety director in 1 hour? 1 hour can go by rather quickly. And sometimes they probably won't even reach 1 hour after the fact. But I ask you to give the citizens access for 1 hour. Give them something to love their city about. Thank you.
Nancy Craig, 365 Silver Street. Mr. Powell, I wouldn't use Bucyrus as an example for anything because they are constantly getting sued by everybody and their brother successfully. By the way, one woman is named Vicki Lynn Deitch, and she's actually one of their city council members and works for the law clerk. So she's constantly suing Bucyrus. I would not use them as an example of what we want to do. The mayor said that he wasn't restricting our access to our representatives or suppressing. I would say he's at least restricting it if they're telling us
you need to get an interview with the radios guy, pretty soon you're bumping into that hour. But I feel like Mr. Neff does, that it's easy to contact your constituents, or it's easy for them to contact you. And I've gone out to people's homes and talked to them at their homes. And actually, they feel more comfortable that way. So I think that 30 minutes is adequate.
And just to add one thing before you, Mr. Smith, a lot of times, in my term here, is a lot of these conversations start out the hallway, walking down the stairwells, and I realize we live in Ohio, we all understand that, and the weather can be completely unpredictable. But I'm going to say a majority of these meetings happen outside those front doors, in the parking lot, on the way to the car, by the front doors. I mean, there's often times when I go downstairs and I can't, you have to, shoulder check somebody to get through, to get out to your car. So 30 minutes in the building seems like a reasonable time. Mr.
Marion
Smith.
Smith, 466 South State Street, also your 5th Ward City Councilman. I would encourage the administration and maybe the Safety Council to consider an hour. That's really not an unreasonable amount of time, in my opinion. Granted, I don't find myself having to stay after council to speak to constituents very often. A lot of that business is handled through email, other places, but that's just my experience. Or I do like Mr. Ratliff's idea of the council person who's doing an interview. Maybe they're responsible for that person in the building after the half hour. So I would just ask that the Safety Commission administration please reconsider. An hour really isn't that much time, and setting a standard would be a good idea. Thank you.
How about everyone signs in and everyone signs out? That way, those who came in, you can check against the sheet. But if you give 1 hour, everyone knows there's a time limit. It's just like putting money in the parking meter. You know you only have a certain amount of time. Of course, you can't put more money in to get more time here, but this chamber is your office. 1 hour. If you can't give 1 hour after a meeting of whichever, you people should not be on city council and representing the taxpayers. So, let's squeeze your brains. Thank you.
Marion, 365 Silver Street. Actually making people sign in for a public meeting is a violation of the Open Meetings Act. We're not required to sign in.
Just one final question. Scott Spears, WGH Radio. I don't think this is a personal attack on the media or freedom of the press or anything like that, but it could look that way. Most council people here tonight seem to feel that an hour is what they want. The mayor asked for input. I hope he takes that into consideration. Hopefully it will be an hour, but I would also hope you would realize this is the city of Harding, the first journalist president, and I don't think we would want to look like we're suppressing the media in any way. And again, I don't feel that's what it is. Thank you.
Okay, Lonnie Daniels, 608 Kendall Street. I would like to see, like tonight, over this particular issue, me, I think 30 minutes is plenty of time, enough time, I'm out of here too, or less. What I'd like to see in the future, depending on whatever committee is, I'd actually like to see all the city council members here. It seems most of them are here tonight. But I'd like to see them, because that was brought up a few years ago.
I'm a brother, of course, with his own city council, that they should all be here on every one of these committee meetings. Because when they're not, and they sit there and they show up, and then this comes to a vote, they don't know what's going on, and it turns into a big 3-hour discussion. So if we've got them here today for this particular issue, they should be here for all of it, because these guys show up for every one of them. So that's what I think should happen. But they're not. And that's it.
So, Councilman, I'm too Jamaican. I mean, I agree, it is easy to send an email, it is easy to send a text, make a phone call, it's also just as easy not to. It's not always easy to look somebody in the eye and avoid their question. I mean, I'm a person who, if I've got a problem with somebody, I bring it to them. I bring it to them face to face. I don't talk behind people's backs. I say it to their face. And I kind of expect that from my government officials and all that. I like to look a man in the eye, and when they respond to me, eyes are the windows of the soul. So, like you said, half an hour, you're going to pay somebody an hour. By the time they walk the floors and lock everything up, why not just set the hour? You said that, well, they all take place outside in the parking lot anyway, so the half hour will probably work. You said, you contradicted all of that by saying, well, if it's an hour, they'll take 2. So you just covered all the bases there, but, I mean, again, it's 4 hours a month. What better way to spend public dollars to let the public reach out to their council people, to their elected officials, to people in the city? I mean, we love the city, so let's show the love. Let's spend $20 an hour. That's under $100 bill here. Party buses and things like that. Whatever, $100 for the public to reach out to their council people, and their council people to look them in the eye, or sit there with their arms crossed, but whatever. So, have a good one. Mayor.
Just kind of in closing for me, this is exactly why we had this meeting tonight, just to try to get input from a lot of different people. I'm glad to hear you don't think it's not a personal attack on any particular people or the media or anybody else. I will, between now and the 12th, reconvene our city council security team, and we'll talk about the hour. We'll see what we come up with. Maybe there'll be a compromise there. I don't know, but we have to be. As we add that hour compared to the half hour, this person is already borderline getting close to full time. So once they get full time, we have to start paying benefits and insurance and all of that. So it's not just $100. It may be $20,000 by the time, if that person goes over the full time mark. So those are all things just to consider while we're talking about that. And whether we push that part-time employee to a full-time status would be a lot more than just having them work those few extra hours. But I've heard everything everybody said tonight. Mr. Schauber, we'll even talk about if we can find a place that we can make a council chamber for people to maybe come and go that'll, you can scan in and out of with your card, and you want to meet constituents there. I had a couple things pop into mind while we were sitting here talking about that. We might be able to accommodate something like that. So we'll move on from here. But I appreciate all the input, and that's exactly why I brought that here tonight. Thank you.
I would also say that, once again, I feel 30 minutes is long enough, and I do feel that Mr. Ratliff's suggestion is a valid one, and I know I personally wouldn't have an issue with having a form that I fill out and say, I'm taking responsibility, I'm going to leave with my constituent and walk out the door. and the building is considered secured. I don't have a problem with that. I'm not sure many other council members would either, but sans that, 30 minutes seems like a reasonable time, and that would be a compromise.
I just wanted to say thank you for saying that at the end there. I mean, we need a mayor, we need people to be can-do. You know, sorry about the whole connection to all the rest of the stuff. But, I mean, let's be can-do, not can-do. Let's figure things out. Let's work together. I'm not political. I vote independent. I vote for the person, and I keep voting for the people who get me where I need to go. So, thank you for that.
Anyone else? We're going to move on to matters not on the agenda. Does anyone have anything they wish to bring before this committee?
Naomi Craig, 365 Silver Street. I was just wondering if we're going to get an update on Camden. This isn't jobs and economic development, is it? Sorry.
Any other matters come before this committee? 7:24, we're adjourned. So what
Next, I think I'm jobs.
yeah, jobs.
Oh, thank you.
Make me feel cheap.
I got everything to the I'm telling you, the older I get, my eyes are.
Trust me, I used to laugh when people said that. Now I'm in the flow.
Yeah, and you know, and like, if I put on readers, then I can't see like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As soon as I hit 40.
All right.
I bought the wrong safety glasses at Whirlpool one night, and it had bifocals across the bottom.
Is this the same chart or different sizes?
Yeah, it's the same page. It's just she gave you a bigger one.
Yeah.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. Even with these glasses, I can't see.
Ralph will be back in a minute.
Man, they have what Fred Sanford used to do, putting on different glasses. Chart. There he is.
This is the same one that before.
Yeah, it's
just
size.
bigger.
7:27, call the Jobs and Economic Development Committee to order. Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. R. Smith?
Here.
Mr. Prater?
Here.
Mr. Ratliff?
Present.
I assume everybody's seen the summary of the proceedings. We have two different ones.
Motion to accept both, please.
Second.
Clerk, call the roll, please.
Mr. R. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Prater?
Yes.
Mr. Ratliff?
Yes.
We have one item on old business. It's a discussion of potential CBDG grants.
All right. up here with your name and keep one for myself. But the job tonight for this committee of council, for the purpose of two things. One, to put a legal ad in the newspaper so that we can all have a little time to digest a potential budget with block grants. And then to set, we'll have a public hearing in the future on this, but then also to start through this process through city council, which will probably have at least 2 hearings. By the time we get to the 3rd hearing, we're about a couple days before the grants are actually due. So ideally, we kind of want to hash some things out today. I'm going to ask that they select potential budgets for 3 grants. And the chart is because it can get kind of tricky. And I've tried to make some just imaginary options as well as some blanks. And I don't want to confuse people, but the formula grant is going to have about $157,000. It can do 2 projects. The important part about the formula grant is provided everything goes well, they will get that money. So those 2 projects are good, are safe, safe bets. The neighborhood revitalization grant, now that one we can apply for up to $750,000. I've taken out the admin, so $725,000. And we have to do at least 3 projects. It's one for a neighborhood. It's typically infrastructure, sidewalks, streets, etc. If you're going to take a project and use it as leverage for that competitive neighborhood, then you can get a 3rd one. So keep that in mind. But if you don't get that competitive grant, that goes away. So and then you have to have an alternate to say, okay, and what I mean is, let's say we had a street project and we said, well, we'll contribute $20,000 of our formula grant, a token amount toward that as leverage. But if we didn't get the neighborhood revitalization and we really can't build a street for $20,000, it has to drop out and you have a replacement. Like purple, for those who can see color, I put an alternate in purple at the bottom, that if we wanted to think of that. The 3rd grant would be a downtown revitalization. It's also competitive. You can do 1 to 3 buildings in the downtown area. Unlike the others, their beneficiary or their national objective is not low and moderate income people or neighborhoods. It's slum and blight. So the types of things are code violations, exteriors like roofs or the fronts, but things like the HVAC for a commercial building would be eligible, a roof would be eligible, and then the elevator would be eligible. So we have 3 buildings, all have to be in the downtown area. Lupin Ministries, or Lupin Outreach, has the HVAC, heating, ventilation, and conditioning. The rec center has a roof, and the Yuba building has an elevator. So those are our 3 buildings. 1, 2, or all 3. But again, the only problem is we only have $250,000 to split between, and all those are kind of large ticket items. So I've started off by listing all of the projects on the left of your chart. What I've done is put the next column is a potential formula grant, and then what its associated competitive neighborhood revitalization grant could be. I've kind of given little nicknames, that first, and then ABCDs, whatever. So that one is we're not using anything as a match for the neighborhood revive. We're just 2 projects. We're picking Lincoln Park Trail and the balance toward Lupin Outreach HVAC. And then instead we'd do as much as we could on the neighborhood revive. No alternate because we weren't picking that third project. B, that's, let's say somebody's like totally in love with the rec center. And we're gonna say, well, we want, the rec center public service, we want the rec center roof, and we'll put a little bit toward, a trail or something. And then we put the rest of it in the block grant. But because 20,000 doesn't necessarily go to trail, we'll pick an alternate. If that doesn't come through, I don't even know 100% if this would work, but we'd swap it out for a picnic shelter. I don't know if they didn't give us the block grant. We may just have to throw 20,000 onto one of the other two projects.
If I could stop you for just a second, I didn't think we could do that because that would be considered 3 projects.
I just caught that. I think you're right. I think we'd have to just throw 20,000 onto one of the other ones. We couldn't do it to the public service because its max is 15%, so it would have to go toward the rec center roof, or something like that.
Okay.
Or an alternate might be where we would make our budget be 48,000, we put something else, something that maybe combine the, so we'd have an alternate scenario or something, okay, 3 projects, okay, now I got myself, let's forget these alternates, because I think I'm just confusing myself. The alternates, for C, I was saying, well, what if we did Lincoln Park, we did Leader Street Trail, and a little bit toward, I guess, the rec center public service. And then, that's again, presuming we were going to get the neighborhood revitalization. And that's where we were doing just a bare minimum. This one is we're doing the sidewalks and then throwing a big lot of money on the street. The street is a project that they have as an ODOT project, so anything we can get out of the block grant is less the city has to come up with, or, so that's kind of its theory versus if we were doing a whole bunch of projects, 3 projects versus 5, the difference is less goes to the street. D is no trail and no rec. I'm taking away everybody's favorites. And then, what if we just came up with totally other things like the Leap-In and the Stark Street. Sidewalks, trails, even rec center, public service. A lot of these things are somewhat expandable. We can design it into whatever the budget is. We can just stop. I'll field. So, not too many are hard budgets other than the buildings. Their renovations do have a certain cost, and then the question is, if we stop somewhere and the city contributes to it, can that project go forward with the property owners? Can they continue?
Okay, so I have like a whole workup here.
Okay.
And it starts with us applying for all 3.
Of course.
Now, my question is,
okay, go ahead. I think I might know.
what order will we find out what we got or not. Because that hinges on what all of my what ifs
One
are.
thing I did find out recently is we cannot put a project in more than one
Correct.
application. I've been through that too. but
Right.
The fine print took that away.
So you have to decide prior to which one you're going.
But-
You couldn't-
Yeah,
you
yeah,
couldn't
you
put
can't.
the Y in the roof at the rec center. at-
Right, because I was going to try to stick that.
But I think what we can do, if we find out in the right order, is let's say that we can put like the LEAP and HVAC in the downtown grant. If we don't get it, we can have a CDBG put it in there, but if we do, then it would be taken out. It would be an alternate, correct?
You can do, yeah. Now, we will on all three, at least with the neighborhood rewrite, but I think, I'm not sure on the downtown. I know that the neighborhood rewrite and the formula would be awarded at the same time, because they'll actually go on the same kind of agreement. Downtown, usually we're in different grant agreements, but I don't know. And they might rule in the sense that as of last grant now, they go till they run out of money. The problem is that they have like $2 million in the process, so chances are, and then in opening time for submitting is all at the same due date of these other grants, so quite likely to say we run out of the $2 million, they'll do that, it takes 8 grants to wipe it out, so.
Okay.
That I just thought of right now, the neighborhood revitalization, one of the things it gets scored on is participation. And with that in mind, I'm going to pass around the sign sheet, so it counts all as what we made in for that. And that goes us. While you're not obligated to sign, you are welcome to sign.
And although you're not obligated, I always encourage everybody to, because we get points based on participation, so the more people that sign in, the better it is for us, so.
Your tracker.
Probably just put the sign-up sheet downstairs in the morning as people come in and sign in.
All right, so I'm just going to roll out with my thoughts here. This is what I think we should do. I think that the city should apply for the downtown grant of $27,000 for the YMCA, $93,000 for the Euler elevator, and $130,000 for LEAP-in HVAC.
Okay, wait a minute. Take me back there a second.
Well, that,
You said downtown?
yes, and that's $250.
Okay, give me those figures.
27 for YMCA.
It's not going to be able to be the public service, though. They can't, the only one that can take a public service grant is the formula. So
Correct.
that just means 27.
For repairs.
Okay. Okay, I'm sorry, second.
93 for the Euler elevator, and 130 for the LEAP-in HVAC.
And what was the other one?
27 for the YMCA. Under the neighborhood revitalization, I didn't do as detailed of a list, and I'm glad because you changed the number from what I had. I thought it was 700.
Well, it is 700. Somewhere is, I mean, go ahead.
Okay.
I just know we have to pay some admin out of it.
Okay, so, I mean, as many
As you can.
projects in there as we can fit, I think that we have more than 700 there. Then my thought was, if we find out we do not get the downtown grant, we should have LEAP-in in the formula grant at 129 and YMCA at 28. Or rec center,
Go down again. LEAP-in was 129.
correct. And the rec center at 28.
Okay.
And if we find out we do get the downtown, because we have more than 700 in the neighborhood revitalization, I think we should put 129 towards walking path and sidewalks, and still 28 towards the rec center.
And that's if we do not.
That's if we do not get the
Okay.
downtown.
So
And at that point, I think the walking path should be in the neighborhood revitalization, and we,
you're right. And I'm sorry, I'm gonna go. So the sidewalk, or I'm sorry, the path.
so yes, so
129,000, kind of an even exchange.
an even
for-
exchange for the LEAP and HVAC,
And then.
and the YMCA would remain at 28.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, so one is the alternate for the other.
Correct.
The 28 for the rec building, though, that was just a repair that we thought was only gonna last a year.
In the formula world, it could be, it would be permitted to be the scholarships. But you're saying just repair.
Well, in the downtown, it would have to be for repair. In the formula, it could be for either.
It could be for either.
And, you know, if you ran the rec center and you had a pot of money here, and we were able to put some here, then you could shift others around to, you know, we will do it the way that we have to make it fit under the grant, and it'll be up to them to shift other monies around then to, yes.
I just didn't know, you thought that it might hurt our chances, because they, you thought they were reluctant to give money for something that's a short term.
Right.
And that was the only thing that I would add to what you're saying is we did have them get a quote for the entire roof, which needs redone. The building is owned by the city, being used in conjunction with the YMCA.
One thing you could do, since the rec center, in the past, we have put the rec center in the Lodo neighborhood, and it was able to be legitimately included in a neighborhood revive.
Correct.
That's when we did some other stuff to the roof years ago. But you could, let's say you were gonna do okay, so that's in their scenario. We've got Leapin, we have the rec center roof, and we had, let's take, in the Leapin, the rec center would count as something toward the leverage toward the neighborhood revite. I'm just trying to think if there's a way we can.
Do you know what their quote came back?
108.
108?
Yeah. And that was for the entire roof. That's, like he was saying, I was just worried about the 28,000 to try to get us, that seems like a lot to just get through 2 years, knowing that the rest of the roof needs redone too, so.
What if, again, I'm thinking like, what if, let's say it's 50,000 or something to the roof, and you're like halfway there, and then maybe the city could help with half. That kind of gets us to the 108. It's still over what we had in the block. Well, no, yeah, let's say 50 and 57 and 100 for leave-in. But if we pulled one other little project, so take 10,000 off of something and say it was for the trail to be your third, and then if that one didn't get, if the neighborhood revive did not get funded, then I guess then your question is, did you want to keep the rec center roof, or did you want to swap it out for your trail? I guess that's a way that a swap
Right.
could work it.
Now, in my opinion, we should, if we're going to do this, and I think that it's good to do it if we can do the whole thing. If we put it under the downtown, if we were able to get that, we would be better because there's more money there. There's a pot of 250.
Right.
And so if you put, do we have to do 3 buildings?
No,
Is it up to 3?
it's just up to 3.
Okay. So if we could do, I don't even know who
And I will
owns the
say
Euler
that
building.
The Euler,
Um,
the estimates we had for them are a little bit dated. So
Okay.
we can have them get new ones if you do a scenario in which the Euler building elevator was selected as one of the potential 3.
Right. So if we were able to get that and did the entire 108 for the YMCA, or for the rec center roof, and the entire 130 for the leap in HVAC, that would put us at 238.
Okay.
We could offer 12,000 to the Euler elevator. If that gets them closer to be able to do it, then great. If not, we just didn't use all the grant, but I think we got better projects maybe. And then we could still look at like 28,000 in like sponsorship money for children to partake in extracurriculars there. And then if we don't get the downtown grant, we would then have to pick which one we think between Leapin and the rec center, which one we want to throw into the formula.
But by that time, we'll also potentially also know if we got the neighborhood revival.
Correct. Because if we put the 108 for the YMCA and we got the downtown grant, we could leverage that and have a better chance at the neighborhood revitalization grant, is my understanding of that too. I don't know that cutting, I have to ask them. I don't know that cutting 157 in half, I don't know what their funding is to get either project done at that point. I know I had asked Leapin, if we were able to, get close, do you have some funding? We're a long way away on half of 157.
What's the minimum you can take and still survive?
That's a slippery slope. I feel like it's attracting. The closer, honestly, the closer we can get to 130, then that's what we need. And like I mentioned last time, the difficulty is.
Go ahead.
To come up, if you
I'll
would.
move up there. How about that?
Sorry, I don't mean to take over your meeting, but.
That's okay, I couldn't see you.
Nolan Hensel, the Executive Director of Leap Outreach Center. The closer we can get to 130, obviously, the better. I can't promise that we're going to be able to secure like half.
Right.
I'll just be very honest. There's no way we can do half. There's just no way. We might be able to secure other grant funding. There's possibilities out there, but half, that's just not going to work, unfortunately. Which is why we're here, and so I would really consider that. I think I wanted to say though that you asked about getting ready to speak.
Well, I thought it was really just if you, what's the minimum that you could.
Yeah. I don't think there is I can't give you a specific
Like if
number.
we had 100,000,
It would be a lot, but it needs to be a lot closer than half.
right.
So.
But you were asking because you still have more to do.
Oh,
after.
thank you. Now I can speak to it. Appreciate that. So as we all know, the contracting price of materials and stuff is continuing to change and rise. So like the estimate that we've given is the closest we're going to be able to get as of right now. And the longer we delay, we just don't know this is what we're guaranteed to be able to get at right now. Correct.
And this is for 100-bed homeless shelter, right?
Yeah.
Just, okay.
Yep.
Again, I'm only one of 3 up here and only one of on council, but to me, looking at the needs of the community and, the fact that we could do a short-term fix if something had to be done with the rec center, I just think Leapin gets more points in my mind than the rec center, and I am for the completely for the rec center too. That's why it would be awesome if we could get the downtown grant to fully fund those both.
So can I just ask a quick question? I just want clarification. So we could write for you all could write for the downtown grant, and you would know if we actually got that grant before they would accept or decide who would be accepted for the formula grant?
That's my understanding.
We're not, I never know when we're going to actually find out. What they did say, we can only put any project in one grant. But if a project was in their formula grant, it was based upon assuming it was getting a competitive grant. If they don't get the competitive grant, they have an opportunity to swap something else out. So in that sense, the formula grant, if they found out they didn't get the downtown and found out they didn't get the neighborhood rewrite, then they had a chance to swap out the project, potentially.
Right.
Then, the same figure, alternate budget to go forward, because we were kind of making some assumptions there. Let's say that the downtown grant, but if that didn't happen, they put it down, leave it into the formula grant, or same with the rec center. The other thing I wanted to mention is that full regional planning did make a non-binding recommendation that I forgot to pass along to you. They also felt that of the priorities, Leapin, because it's provide housing for up to 100 people, that was had a community-wide benefit, and that the trail on the fairground, that trail.
Now, in your preliminary discussions, I know we had kind of touched on this at the last meeting. Is there any interest that you know of partnering with the county? And if we went 50-50 on Leapin and the rec center, that they would too?
I'm going to say no to that, more so.
Because they never do any projects in the city.
Well, that, and also, my fear
even though it's in the
more
county.
at the federal level. The county doesn't get to select projects till next year, and that will be the program year 26. And the most recent, at least, skinny budget proposed for as president, it eliminates CDG as no more. So I did ask my rep, my grant rep, how nervous do I need to be even for this grant? He felt that the state of Ohio already has a grant agreement with the feds, with the HUD for the money that the county has this year and the money that they're applying for this one. That money is for the funding, safe, but, we'll see if CDG exists much longer.
I think Mr. Bodine has something to add.
I just want to add, I worked with Evelyn on the Leader Street and Fairground Street path, and I want to say that if you look at last year and a half, in that time frame, we're about to start phase 2 of the Lincoln Path Trail. We have a grant out for phase 3. This one would tie into this. I guess I'm saying all that because it seems relatively easy, and the state has a lot of grants for paths. I think programs like Leapin, I think the rec center they don't come up near as often as things like this. And for something that reaches that many community people and helps, I think that should be a bigger priority. And eventually, we can still keep those plans in place and probably get that done sooner rather than later. So that's just, I wanted to add that because, you can talk to Zoe, we see a lot of trail in greenways and things like that, so.
Thank you.
I agree with that, and that's. But from where we sit, if we start with the downtown and we put them both there, and we don't get that, I don't think we have an option of doing both, because I think if we go 50-50, we have an option of neither one of them being able to get done. So again, I think then if we don't get the downtown, I think we have to pick, and I amend a little bit what I said earlier, that we should start with the downtown and go 108 for the rec center, 130 for Leapin, which would equal 238. It would leave 12,000 left for the Euler elevator. If that gets their project done, great. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Apply for the neighborhood revitalization. If we do not get the downtown grant, I think we go with the formula at 129 for Leapin, 28 for YMCA sponsorships. If we do get the downtown, I would still say the leader walking paths at that point because we got our other projects funded, and 28 for the rec center YMCA sponsorships. And that to me is the best bang for our buck.
I keep hearing about the downtown revitalization grant. We keep saying if we get it or if we don't get it. What are the odds that we could get that, or how difficult is that over all these other things? I mean, what would you, if you had to lay a percentage on it?
In my mind, I think we're more likely to get in the neighborhood revitalization grant, actually, than the downtown. I think we've got a chance. It just really depends on how many other communities apply.
Okay.
That one goes on more of the local light, and we'll have to just say how terrible the buildings are.
Yep.
And prove it to them that they're in bad condition.
Yeah. I like what Mrs. Ratliff said here about, like, if you don't get it, about the Leapin Ministries and the 28,000 to apply to that. I think that's a great idea. Because I think finding a place for people that are homeless, I had to help a friend in the last few years who was homeless, and I think that's would be a priority. If you don't have had the 157,000.
Anything else to add? Anybody from the audience? Mr. Neff?
Mike Neff, Marion City Council at large. You know, I've been through this a few times, and this is still a little bit confusing to me tonight. But at the same time, yeah, I mean, we usually just, okay, here's the CDBG, this, and it's not even called that anymore. So, but I think what you've said, Mr. Ratliff, is your thoughts were leaping at 128 and the rest for the rec center scholarships
129, and then 28 because that's our max.
for the scholarships
Yes.
for the rec center. 5.5 years. I mean, you and I are lockstep on this 100%. My number one project was leap in, and my number two would be the scholarship. So I think we're headed in the right direction. I love the fact that we're taking these other opportunities to try and fund all these projects. They're all worthy projects, but just like I said, I'm one council member, and those are my top two projects for the allocation.
Thank you. Mr. Daniel?
On the annual 688 Andrew Street. This is interesting. Not so much for what it's trying to fund, but for what it's not. Who owns the Eula building?
I don't know.
Does it belong
I
to
don't
the
know.
city? Is it
No.
It is
private?
It doesn't.
Who belongs to it? So they own it. Then they should sit there and fund for the elevator replacement. Why is the city, I mean, this is grant money, right?
Right, it's allowed to be used for private property. In fact, it's limited that it usually cannot be used for government buildings, unless it's like an ADA thing. So that's just a particular type of a program that's geared a little more toward private property than it is to government property, with the exception of a community center.
What benefit does the city get from it? Because they're the ones asking for the grant money.
Right, it's supposed to eliminate conditions of slump and light and remedy issues of code violations to keep buildings useful.
I gave this one light, I've said it before, Joseph and Mary Street.
Oh, I know, yeah, you're right.
Isn't that wonderful? The last administration sat there and set all that up. It's like a functioning building before they got hold of it, and now it's a ruin. It was a warehouse. Drivers used to be there. I used to work there. And when they moved out in 2005, well, yeah, there's a building sitting there, but I mean, it could have been taken over by Can-Do. I mean, they're supposed to be doing jobs in here, after all. And what did they do? They ended up selling it at auction to 3 different individuals.
Mr. Daniels, that was never
That was-
publicly owned land.
That was never public.
So
Well,
we
is it publicly owned now?
no, and
Is it owned by
so
the city?
no,
Who owns that?
the same person who bought it.
And
They paying taxes on it?
I don't know, and that
there was another private owner before him, before that got lost. So it's been a series of private owners after, businesses.
And one Superfund project later, I understand. The federal government came in and actually had to sit there and fund that mess, and it's still. So I just wondered why they get benefit of it being private individuals. I mean, I don't know. The only thing I know about the Mueller building, to be honest with you, is that it used to be owned by somebody else, and that then the person that took over from them ended up getting a grant for $40,000 from the business. That was a number of years ago, I grant you.
Yep, that was, lawyers had done the grant, because if you might have recalled, some of the windows were falling off of the upper stories and into the classrooms.
Okay. And then, of course, there was the cleanup that they had, where they ripped out, where they touched it and removed it. I don't know if that's paid for that or not, or if it's somebody else, but I just wondered what kind of benefit the city's gonna get out of it is that they're in fund for the, I mean, how many places in this, it's a 5-story building, if I'm not mistaken?
6-story.
Okay. I mean, how many areas are occupied? I mean, you got a barber shop out there, that's the last one, I've never gone in. But, there's multiple offices in there?
I can't tell you how many are presently occupied, but there's a church on the first floor.
I'm sorry?
Church on the first floor.
The barber shop moved out several years ago.
Oh, so there's a church in there. So, so that means that they pay taxes into the city's coffers then?
They're just a tenant.
Well, the church, yes,
Church
but
is
the
the tenant.
people that own it.
Yes, they property taxes.
And then my question here is, you're talking about 1 to 3 buildings. What are the other 2 buildings?
Two buildings that they're referring to are Lebanon, which is the old Marion Star structure. That's being developed by Lebanon Outreach as a homeless shelter on the 2nd floor. And then the third building in consideration is the rec center.
Wasn't that the old YMCA?
No. Right here behind this building.
The old freshman.
Yeah, that's the old high school used to be. Okay. Well, as far as Lebanon is concerned, I probably think we should get money because, I mean, we have, I don't know how many homeless we have in this city, but it's a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, in summertime's coming on. And, well, I hate to sit there and say it, but they are getting a little hotter every year. Since I work outside, I know it. So, I mean, they shouldn't be allowed to have to sit there and, I mean, it's cold here too. But I was just wondering why they get the benefit of the city's resources and such. I probably could understand it, but, I mean, it's owned by a private interest and it's like,
In the past, the downtown grants, we would do an entire target area and might have 16 to 32 structures. And they all had to share just $300,000, so that was a little harder. Now I don't think they realize that the state that money doesn't go very far, so that's why it's from being from 1 to 3.
I apologize, I had one more question. Where's this grant money coming from? Is it coming from the Fed or state?
Fed. Fed. The state is the grant recipient on behalf of Ohio, and then they break it down into competitive programs, but it is federal funds, CDG, which is Community Development Block Grant. Which is why there is a fear that it may not exist for much longer after these rounds of grants.
You can't say it, but good luck.
Thank you. Yes.
Hi, Christian Pearson, 701. We're talking about this money that comes from the federal government right now. I'm just curious, like in a year, how will this conversation about grants and I guess what be different, and how will people's lives, like, you know, this might go to the, you know, HVAC system to the homeless shelter. How will people's lives look different in a year from now? Do you think all this federal money is just going to disappear?
Okay, so from what I have been told, and again, does change right now, kind of week to week, but the money that we are applying for now is considered a program year 2025. That has been funded by Congress and is in a grant to the state of Ohio already. So therefore, provided they don't claw back the existing grant agreements, which sometimes that happens, sometimes it doesn't, but it's the state's understanding that we should be comfortable. So if we apply now, we would get funded in October of this year. We would go into construction in 2026 and half of 2027. Then that's the next time, so the city and the county of Marion are on alternating years. So for instance, the county right now has a bunch of program year 2024 grants. They will expire at the beginning of next year sometime. And you guys are applying now, you'll get them, and so they kind of overlap a little bit. Hopefully, Congress will see the value of block grants and maybe cut. I know HUD itself has been cut. All the HUD staff in Columbus office have been let go. So, yeah, so we are seeing a lot of changes, but which is all the more reason why to try to go for broke, get what we can. You know, if we could be so lucky, have backup plans, so I like any creative ideas. But the idea of this conversation is to say, okay, of all things being equal, we only get two, what are our top priorities that we feel like are helping the community, general community, whether it's kids in the rec center, you know, people at the homeless shelter, or those within the neighborhoods, you know, what are our top, at least maybe three priorities, knowing that you might get two, you may not have a backup, you know, you may have some things in play. So what would those be?
Thank you. Ms. Craig?
My name is Craig, 365 Silver Street, and I do want to give a shout out to Evelyn if I'm allowed to do that, because she had the neighborhood community meeting, Lincoln Park neighborhood community meeting, and we brought up Ohio Galvanizing to her, and I think I had an email within a day or two. Done some looking into Ohio Galvanizing, and that would be the brown zone that he was speaking about. So I think all of that's kind of being looked at. So I want to give a shout out to Evelyn for that. I want to make sure I understand this. So this year we're applying for grants, and we'll get them in 26.
Correct.
26, the county will apply for grants, but we don't get, if they exist, but we don't get to apply in 26 then. Okay, so it is, I didn't know that one. Something that is kind of scary is that I do homeschool, and we get ACE grants, and they are used to buy curriculum, and we can use music lessons and all those things that we don't get through art, that sort of thing, that we don't get at public school, and those have been shut down. Like, we've actually submitted invoices and everything for them, and we're not going to get paid for this year. So that's kind of concerning. So I'm not out a lot of money because I use curriculum that's provided, but there's some parents that are out thousands of dollars. So it is kind of getting scary when it comes to the grant thing. But now, reading all of this, give Leapin their money. We shouldn't even be talking about this. They're going to help 100 people. Give Leapin their money. I'm partial to the YMCA. My son's a team leader. He helped paint and do all the fun stuff and put furniture together, and he's over there, mentoring the youth and hanging out and that sort of thing. So I want them to have their money too. And Mr. Cowell, I gave him my daughter, are we patching it when it really needs fixed? But looking at this, but now I'm kind of curious. We've talked about Leapin and we've talked about the YMCA. Where does that leave the neighborhoods? What do we get?
Well, there's still the neighborhood revitalization grant.
Okay. And okay, so what if we don't get the other two grants and then we need Leapin money and then we need, or whatever? What can come out of the neighborhood revitalization, I guess, would be the best question.
And that's where we have to prioritize.
Okay. So the neighborhood meeting that we had, we might not get anything that was suggested.
The neighborhood meeting that took place was because we thought there was a good opportunity to get funding.
Okay.
And I'm still under the assumption that that opportunity is still there.
Okay.
And that's what we're going to go after, and that we're going to get as many projects that came out of that as we can. If they shut off the grant money, there's
It's shut off some of it already. I get
and I'm probably dating myself here, but I believe my first year on council, our budget for these CDBGs was like $475,000. Somewhere it was over double of what it is now, and it almost hasn't mattered who has been president, what party the president came from. These have dwindled every year. Other monies dwindle to municipalities, and in my opinion, that has mattered what party the governors have come from. And I think under Taft and Kasich, we saw the biggest cuts. But it continues. And when we got cut out of the cat tax and got cut out of the other taxes that they continue to cut us out of, it's been harder and harder, and we're getting less grant money and less grant money and less grant money, and the problem is the projects are more expensive,
Oh, yeah, definitely.
and we need to do more
Materials.
projects today than we did then. So, you know, it feels good and bad at the same time, every one of these grant cycles that can come through, because you do get to fund stuff, but there's a larger list that you don't get to fund. And, you know, that's why, you know, we just need to keep our fingers crossed that we could get all three of these, because then we could honestly fund practically everything on the list.
Yeah, we're pretty close to that, especially with the neighborhood relight. The thing that varies there is how much do we put toward the street.
And I know Mr. Bodine said there was a grant for the third phase, and is that what will like bring it out to fairground?
It'll tie it into the ballpark where phase 2 is being bid out now,
Like the state
and it'll go
fair.
all the way to Oak Street.
Okay. So, but that still leaves us with no sidewalk on River Street.
Correct.
Where people are walking to get jobs. Because one thing I noticed today is a lot of the staffing agencies are down at Ohio Meets Jobs. They must have been having like an open interview process today. Because I saw people walking up and down the street all day, and then when I went down, I'm actually into the homeless shelter today, there were people outside. So I'm assuming they were having some kind of job fair or something, but there were people walking up and down the streets.
I'll just add to, just so everybody knows, the path actually on Fairground that would go to Leader, it kind of goes in and out of the corporation limits. And I spoke with Brett Irons about it, and he's completely open to us using it. So I have that design.
That is weird.
And I have Leader Street design all the way on the west side of the street, basically so it's that railroad. So it should be good.
You know, and so, you know, so we have to determine up here when council does these, do we want to have a path for them to walk on to get from the Leapin building to Job and Family Services, or do we want them to have a building to be able to walk to?
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, that's,
I get
you
it.
know.
I get it, but, yeah.
My point was is that there's a lot of grants out there for trails, so I feel pretty positive.
That's good.
Another one
Yeah.
will come along.
I'm glad to hear it. And the west side makes sense because I had to think about it for a second, but that makes sense because we don't have all the driveways there. And
It also makes sense from the perspective of, we have this new trail at Lincoln. Now we're going down Fairground. Eventually, we can extend that and hit Quarry Park. If we go down Leader Street all the way to Silver's a direct shot to Tallgrass. Eventually. This all makes sense for future planning, so.
Well, as someone that's lived there for 17 years, I mean, realistically, I don't want to hear about future planning. I'd like to hear about something a little more, you know, current. But I understand things take time. We need money for all of that kind of stuff. But I'm going to have my neighbors asking me what the heck we got out of those two meetings, and I'm going to tell them. Call you guys.
Anything else from the audience? Yes, sir.
Nolan Hetzel from Lincoln Outreach Center. As many of you are already aware, and I don't think I'm speaking out of turn, that our community faces a lot of challenges when it comes to housing. I also know that one of our city's initiatives is to actually address blight and homelessness. It was even mentioned on Strongest Towns. Remember that? In a recent Housing Coalition meeting, a specific incident was brought up where people were living in an abandoned house. And in conjunction with the land bank, they were attempting to tear the house down. That was the plan. And I just was curious, like, where did those people end up going? You know, that's my question. Is like, where do they go? You know, we have opportunities to address those types of things in conjunction with the land bank now. You know, once this project is complete. And let's be honest, this isn't a standalone circumstance. This happens pretty consistently. We have a lot of people who are living in homes and squatting. And I think with the completion of this project, we're going to be able to answer that question. You know, we won't have to sit back and wonder what happens with the people living in these buildings or in these houses. We'll have a process to actually address it, as well as caring for the lives of the people. Also, just want to say that you know, this is a crucial step towards
permanent housing solutions for a lot of people. It actually fosters healthier and safer and more compassionate community for the entire city of Marion. It also is going to provide supportive services once it's established. We've got connections to mental health, job training, case management, all intended to empower long-term stability. We actually have, and like many of you have seen, I brought copies for all of you if you'd like to see them. We have written support from an incredible amount of organizations within our community, from ODGFS to Goodwill, United Way, the Adam H. Board, Marion County Family Shelter Council, Marion City Schools, Marion Matters, Community Action, the Homelessness Coalition, Marion County Commissioners, Marion Victims Assistance, Aspire, this is awesome, Boys and Girls Club, Salvation Army, Marion County Board of DD. This is obviously a need that's been recognized by incredible organizations within our community. These are the people who are in the trenches. They're the ones who are working alongside people, walking alongside people. In fact, just for some context, this is not just a story. Today, when I was at Marion Matters, a Marion citizen came in after attempting to take up residence at the local homeless shelter, but they were unable due to them being already in capacity. Also, got a phone call today. One of the success coaches is actually working in one of our local businesses, and they're currently helping an employee who is experiencing homelessness. This is somebody who's working like full time and is experiencing homelessness. This is real, and this is just today that I'm aware of. Not to mention, in the whole year, this past year, we served 109 customers at Leap Outreach Center who were experiencing homelessness, who are registered with us. And honestly, many of the projects that we've heard tonight are amazing. Like, they really are. They're all going to benefit our community in the long run. And I'm not here to argue that point, because I think it's all really beneficial. But I think if we're granted this money, we as a community have the opportunity to really invest in our people. And these are our people. And we have the opportunity to see people's lives restored, to see relationships restored, to see our community restored, because we care about our people. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Evelyn, I got to ask you one more question, because I'm ready to make a motion to send this out. Do we, because I'm not with the alternate and with the downtown, if we get it or not, do we make it Leapin and the rec center with the leader walking path being the alternate, or do we make it the walking path and the rec center, and then if we don't get it, Leapin would be the alternate?
Yes.
That one? Okay. Then I will make a motion with the understanding that there will be a downtown grant application and a neighborhood revitalization grant application done, that we are going to fund the Leader Street that would kick the walking path out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have a motion. We have a second.
Second, right here.
Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. R. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Prater?
Yes.
Mr. Rapp?
Yes.
Okay, we have no items on the new business, so we move on to matters not on the agenda. Anybody have anything? Ms. Craig?
Jobs moving on to development. Amy Craig, 365 Silver Street. Well, I guess it's out that can do is can don't right now. I don't know. Are we going to get an update on them? Because as we talked about last meeting, we still have money allocated for them, $41,000. I know Mr. Powell nodded his head the last time that I said we still have $41,000 allocated for
41.6 actually.
41.6. Okay.
But we have not given that to them.
I know, it's just sitting there. Since by the time they get it together, I would imagine it would be June. I would say that we de-appropriate half that money, because why would we give them a year's worth of income if they're not going to be around for a year? We were clawing money back from victims' assistance, and I understand why we were doing that. But if we were going to take money from victims of crime, why aren't we taking money from, I mean, they're halfway through the year, and why would we keep sitting on a whole budget for them? Mr. Fraser.
I was just thinking that today, that being the fact that we're halfway through the year, allocate half of that money for the get them through this year until, who knows, maybe it'll be 2026 where we know what about the Roberts property. So just allocate this half of it for the rest of this year.
And then take the other half back and throw it in the general fund,
Or whatever you would do.
Pay the IRS or
Yeah,
or do whatever.
because I know that I think I heard something, I'm not sure, that they're gonna run out of some money. They're gonna need some money to get through the rest of the year. The leadership has changed, okay?
It hasn't changed yet, though, it's just
In limbo.
Yeah, okay.
You know what I mean? There's gonna be a change.
I didn't know if they hired somebody.
Yeah, I don't know either, but I do know that it needs to be funded from June on. And it was just what I was thinking myself. And there's one time they on the
I would disagree with that. And I've been one of the staunch people sitting up here saying no, 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 no. However, if they've set up, if you have a budget for the entire year, and you don't get this pot of money and you don't get this pot of money, then you have overstretched these pots of monies to compensate for the fact you didn't get money over here. They still, I mean, it is from the standpoint they do work for us, and they, and as much as we can think the last person didn't do much, the organization has done good things in the past. And I'm not even saying the recent past, I'm just saying the past. And because we don't have another plan, we need them to work for us in the future. And
So we're going to give them a year's worth of money for half a year's worth of work?
I would reiterate what you just said. What my point was going to be is they've already budgeted the city's portion that the city was going to give and the county's portion as part of their overall budget for the year. So it isn't, they're not going to stop working halfway through the year. They're going to continue. It's my understanding from being on the executive board and talking to the executive board today that they're working on a news release. Gus is retiring and on vacation for the next couple of weeks or whatever, but they have put out notice for applications. I've already talked to a few people that have shown interest. So we're going to need that money. Out in the next week or two or whatever, because it probably won't. It may be next year, and the Roberts have said they're not going to entertain continuing with that lease, so it will just die, for lack of a better term. But there's a lot of other things that are going on over at Can Do besides just the Roberts property on Kellogg Parkway. So I'd hate to see us hold up our money, our contribution, just because that situation was handled incorrectly or not brought to our attention probably when it should have.
Well, the reason I brought up is just as like a compromise for the people, like, hey, and then that money would be, I wasn't saying that you permanently remove the money, it's just that maybe at the end, like by November or something's resolved, and then apply the rest of it then. But, that was what I was going to say as a compromise. to many people that may have objected to whatever, but if Can-Do needs the whole 41,000, that would be good. I want Can-Do to continue and exist. It's vitally important. But that was just a compromise idea that I had for the people that might have been saying, like she did, what about the
Sure.
properties there?
And once they hire a new director, they're gonna continue to have to pay that person, for the rest of the year or whatever. So they're not fat on money. They're very lean on money. So without the city's portion, that's certainly gonna have an impact on what they're gonna be able to do the rest of the year.
Yeah, I'm not around those meetings, so I don't know everything.
And I know it's been said before, I've heard before, that the county hasn't funded them for this year. The county has funded them. They just haven't given them additional money. So
Got it.
they had talked about giving them some of the Savion, the Savion solar money payment that they got. And I think the county will still entertain giving them some of the money. And I think the county would like to see us give our portion before they decide to give more. That's my understanding.
Can we find, because, I found it interesting, I guess will be the word, that they received $1 million.
The county?
Yes.
They absolutely did.
And who was that from and what's it for?
That was from Savion as part of the agreement, when that was built out there, that once they began construction, that the county would receive $1 million. Once construction's done, it's my understanding they'll receive another $1 million. I guess because it's in the county and they're the ones that facilitated, them being able to build there. I'm not sure why we're not in line for any of that.
It's because
I'd like to be, but
Ohio law.
yeah.
Because they don't pay taxes, it's a pilot payment in lieu of taxes, so they, it's just the way energy is taxed or not taxed. Instead, they get a certain dollar figure per megawatt that then gets provided to the county. So I think they'll get maybe 700, 900,000 a year, but then you can negotiate this additional, in this case it was $1 million, as you mentioned, upon groundbreaking and $1 million upon completion.
So, if they have received $1 million and gonna get $2 million, maybe they could pay our portion this year.
They need to prevent stabilization, is what they said, which we could probably use some of that too. But, okay, so my problem is with the Roberts property, and we can call it unfortunate or whatever. I personally find it a misrepresentation of facts to the taxpayers of the city of Marion. And I don't believe that we should reward that. And I know it doesn't matter what I say. I'm used to that. But I just wanted to make sure I got everyone on record talking about how they were more than willing to fund an organization that has likely been misrepresenting the facts of the Roberts property to us for years, a couple years at least.
I think 5.
Okay, so for 5 years.
Just a correction.
Okay, yes, please.
Can-Do did not misrepresent. Can-Do did not know that the Roberts property had a lease on it.
So then we should be going after the people that own the Roberts land for misrepresenting their ability of their land to be leased to Can-Do?
I can't answer that.
Can-Do did their due diligence then by checking to see if the property that they were marketing was able to be marketed. So that would be another, I don't want to say misrepresentation, failing to the taxpayers of the city and the county. So I mean, we're all in here, city and county taxpayers, so we're being hit twice as a city organization. So, but we're not going to appropriate any money because this organization that we don't know exactly what's going on. We know Robert's property isn't available. They've been marketing it for 5 years. We've been giving them money like it is available. Those are the only cities in the property, or the properties in the city. We're not going to appropriate money from them. If I have a business and I lose my funding in the middle of the year, I don't get just to say, okay, please keep funding me, I'll get my stuff together. That's not the way real life works. Yet, that's the way, if we're friends and buddies with people, that's the way the government works. And it's pretty gross.
Just a matter of clarification, that I agree with what Mr. Ratliff said, because Can-Do did not stop working just because they didn't get our fund. But
What work are they doing?
what's your turn, please? Yes, sir.
Jason Shaw, Goodwill City Council. The resolution to fund Can Do was on your agenda. It is not on the agenda. And there's conversation this evening about fully funding the full year's amount of 41.6. When do you plan on bringing that resolution forward and funding them to let the council to decide?
I believe, Mr. Shaw, at the last time that we had that before committee, we agreed that we would not bring that forward again until the problem with the lease was resolved. So that will just stay in the committee until such time as we get a definite answer one way or the other.
And I believe, Mayor Collins, did you say it'd be 26 or 27 before that's resolved? It
Could
won't
be
resolved?
26.
I didn't, not exactly what I said. They had been in the process of trying to get, you remember the one night the attorney came in?
He said it'd be a few weeks.
The attorney said that Savion's a big company. They agreed that they will pull that from the lease. We haven't seen that happen. I'm saying worst case scenario, the lease expires in 26. The only way that it would go forward is if the Roberts renewed the lease or went forward with that. I have reached out to the Roberts over the last week or so with a couple of emails.
I'm sure they want to sell it.
I would like them to come up and tell the committee that, they're not interested in having a lease with Savion, so everybody knows that that's actually what the situation is.
So Can Do's funding is in fact hinged upon getting that lease.
That is still my position, and that's been my position from the start.
So if it doesn't happen this year, this committee is sitting right here saying they're not going to fund Can Do. And they're also on the other side of their mouth saying how valuable of an asset and resource that Can Do is. How can you sit there and not fund them if it's that great of a resource?
Well, I think that Can Do is a vitally important organization to Marion County and Marion City. And so they need to have some money to operate on, to continue to operate. What we don't want to see is because of our lack of funding, Can Do goes under and it's
That's what's
gone.
going to happen if you don't bring forward a resolution to fund them, sir.
Exactly.
Correct? So what are you
Could very
bringing
well.
forward to fund them? Or is it hinging on the lease being free? Released?
Well, I have talked to Mr. Roberts before, and Mr. Roberts said that he was not going to renew the lease, so definitely by 2026, when it expires.
So you're going to cross your fingers and hope that Can Do survives 2025 without the city's funding?
Unless we can find a way.
See, that's why I brought up the point about at least allowing half of the funding. Or, go ahead and maybe fund it all, because we do need it. I'm not saying we're not going to fund it. I just brought up the fact that just at least to get it through this year until that lease thing is resolved, at least fund half of it, so it's not evaporating or disappearing from the face of the earth.
My perspective, Can Do has been punished, and the individual that they feel is responsible for that lease debacle has been removed from their position, whatever it is.
I agree.
So why are we still hanging their funding on this lease being released?
Because that...
Let go. And so the Roberts, I don't think they have any power over a lease with a signed agreement, and so you have to let it expire. So you're sitting here tonight saying that once that's expired, you will fund it. And that is in 26. And you're going to cross your fingers and hope that that organization is still here.
That's not completely correct. The paperwork, for lack of a better word, the paperwork to try to get that lease removed has been issued several weeks ago, months ago maybe. If that comes through tomorrow, we'll bring that up on the committee, the very next committee meeting we have. But then if it doesn't, we had an outcry from the community that said they did not want to see Can Do funded because of those properties. My suspicion is that there was a lot of personal animosity involved in that with Mr. Comstock.
Yeah, Mr. Comstock is.
Yeah, and he is no longer there. So if I could get word from those individuals who were against it before, that they would not object to it now, I'd bring it up next committee meeting. But the community is the one that spoke.
An individual that had a personal conflict with Mr. Comstock is holding up your committee from.
Not one individual, no.
I've not had anybody telling me to hold it up. I mean, we gotta fund something for Can Do. That's why I brought up the point of at least half of it. You know, it's like a compromise, you know, it's to try to appease like some of the people that didn't want any of it. That's why I brought that up, because it needs something to get through the rest of the year. Now, if it'd be better to fund the whole thing, like he said, better, let's go ahead. We gotta do something with Can Do.
Yes, exactly. You have to
And
do
I
something.
agree with you. Something has to be done as maybe as quick as possible.
If this lease is released within a month, how does that make Can Do any better? It sounds like it makes someone that approached you happy about doing business with Can Do.
Not necessarily with Can Do. Can Do is a great organization. My feeling, my opinion is that those people had a problem with the leader of Can Do, Gus Comstock. He's no longer in the picture. If those individuals, and there's more than one, if those individuals would indicate that they would not object to us bringing the Can Do back on the table, what I don't want to do is bring Can Do funding back on the table and then have another outcry from the community, just like we had before. So, because the community speaks.
Right, and that's how governance works.
Exactly.
We put issues out there and get feedback from our constituents.
And that's what we did.
Right now, it's not on the agenda. That's not like you fund it until 26.
I think we should absolutely look at putting it back on the agenda.
Yeah, I mean, we gotta.
Maybe, you know, the next committee night, we put it back on the agenda and see what the public has to say about it.
I agree.
I absolutely think, like all three of them said, it's a worthwhile organization. It needs to not be probably the only way that's not going to happen is if the city funds their portion this year.
And I agree.
Terry Klein, Marion. Let's get one thing really clear. Mr. Comstock was given the option to resign or be fired. He is no longer there. And Ralph and Ronald, at the last meeting of economic development, both agreed, well, Mr. Klein, there's animus there. Well, hey, you know, there was fact. Can Do, under Gus Comstock's leadership, was given $440,000 from the city. What do we have to show for that? Where was that money spent? We have no idea. Can Do, as a business entity, absolutely necessary. Any of you know when Can Do became Can Do? 1993. Can Do has issues with administration, or rather board membership. And I would encourage you to really think about funding Can Do. Fund them, yes, contingent upon a complete reorganization. They don't need any more than 5 members on their board. There should not be a city representative on that board, or a county, or any government agencies. That board should be made up of entrepreneurs, people who know what it is to work for a living. People like Howard Smith, some of the other, I can't think of it, that has the machine works beside Todd Codor. People like that, Ted Grant, Lois Fisher, entrepreneurs that know what it is to work for a living. Bureaucrats on there do not make for a good mix. I would urge you to strongly consider Camden will going to fund you, but it's contingent upon you folks reorganizing. Can do, at least from the beginning, quite possibly, but most certainly under Gus Comstock, has been in violation of Ohio sunshine laws for 10, 11 years. Not once, not even on their website, have they posted a date, time, and location, and most particularly, that the meetings were open to the public, because they were city and county tax dollars. So, give us some thought. Fund can do, absolutely. We need that business entity. It needs to continue, but it needs to be reorganized, period. We need to see a return on dollars. Excuse me, we invest in them. So, and you can double that probably. Maybe the county matched the same amount that the city did. $880,000. What do we have to show for it?
Thank you. That's great.
Marion Craig, 365 Silver Street. I actually happened to be at the city planning meeting where solar was being discussed after the lease situation was brought to light, I guess, we got the best word of it. And Josh Daniels is the president of city planning, okay, probably not use that. I was going to say, I know he sat up there and had the gavel, so that was a good indicator. He was going to invite the Roberts, I guess that's the people that own it. It was his intention to invite them to come speak to city planning about what they were going to do about that in 2026, whether or not they were going to renew the lease. I don't know if they were ever contacted, but I know they haven't been to a city planning meeting since. And I don't know if anyone has been out there or not, but they are actively building on the land that they're saying that they're going to end the lease on. They're using it for construction right now to go into the substation behind the quarry that's on the other side on Fairground Street. But there's equipment out there. I've seen it. I've got pictures of it. So if they're done with that work by the end of the year, I'll be surprised. But I think that the people that own the land, if they don't want solar, come in here and tell us you don't want solar.
One misconception I may have, and I've had it, I guess, from the start, is Roberts owns the land, leased to Savion. And I thought it was Savion who had the option to renew or not Roberts. So whether Roberts has an intention or not, it doesn't matter because it's an automatic lease if Savion extends the lease. So I don't know why we would even want to hear from Roberts because we need to hear from Savion because I don't even think Roberts has a say if it gets extended or not.
Shell Oil
That's great.
owns
That's
Marion
great.
Craig 365. I just want to
Ms.
say
Fisher, Ms.
Shell
Fisher
Oil
was ahead of you.
Shell Oil owns Savion.
Correct.
Too. So we're even dealing with a bigger conglomerate.
Ms. Fisher?
Lois Fisher, 7 Review Circle. I would just like to say that I think that we're missing a little bit of the concept. There was a mistake made. It's been corrected, but you can't punish this entire Marion community because of a mistake. We need economic development. You spend a lot of time here talking about grants for homeless. We need jobs. We need to go forward. We can't go back all the time. You need to go forward, and you need economic development. As you all know, I was strongly against the leadership. I was very vocal about it, but I am saying now that has been corrected. They're in the process of correcting it, and I think that you have to think of the whole community, not just one thing as far as the Roberts property. Legally, I got copies of the lease. I went online, anybody can go online, they can print them off, and I did, and I read it. And that's one sliver of the whole economic development for Marion, Ohio. And I would like to encourage you, I won't be able, if you bring it, I'm putting my word out here now, but if you bring it to committee in 2 weeks from now, I will not be here, I'll be out of state, but I would like to say that I strongly urge you to consider funding the entire amount because Can-Do has to go forward. Economic development for Marion, Ohio is extremely important, and if you're going to be working to get grants to fund homeless, then you best be looking at ways so that we can cure the homeless situation.
Thank you
very much.
I agree with you. Mr. Daniels.
Candy Street. Originally, as I understand it, Can-Do after a certain amount of time was supposed to be independent. We were supposed to be stopping the payments between us and the county, and they were supposed to operate independently. However, 31 years later, we're still supporting them. One of the issues I had with Can-Do, or I would like to call it cannot, was the fact that at one time they had property, so many acres, and I don't understand the whole thing, but I understand that they sat there and took a loan from the bank and used that property as collateral. And when they couldn't make payments, the bank took the property. It was about 180 acres. It was insulated industrial. Now, I know when it first started out, I know why it was created, because the city of Marion couldn't enter into contracts with entities, corporate entities, on their own. But just, that's why nobody was showing up here. That's why we had what we had. Whirlpool and the rest. We weren't going to get any bigger. And so they created Can-Do, and I don't know exactly where the property came from, but around 2000, Mayor Kellogg sat there, along with others, created Marion Industries, which there's a Sagamore, I think is what it's called, little tiny building, with part of those industrial acres. And that brought, I think, altogether at the time, brought about close to 600 jobs, is what we badly needed. But after Kellogg's departure, it's just like we just haven't had to run on it at all, hardly. I mean, there was some kind of idea about bringing 35 jobs through a dog food plant, but I don't know if that ever got off the ground. Go ahead.
Well, part of the reasons why there's, when NAFTA was put into effect in 1995, I think it's like, what I heard, like 900,000 manufacturing jobs that went to other countries. And that has a lot to do with the lack of industrial growth in Marion, is that the trade agreements in the past, that in the long term has had a great effect on a lot of towns, especially small towns, across smaller cities, towns across Ohio, and all across the United States. I mean, there are tons of jobs left our country. Places that used to be here making wire harnesses for Whirlpool. I worked there once, and it's gone. I mean, but there's no, not to say that Can-Do could not have done better over these last few years. They could have. But there's a lot of reasons why there is industrial growth has shrunk in this country, and it had to do with partially with the people running the country at the time that shipped our jobs overseas.
Okay, well, then, what do they do?
What we need to do is just bring our industrial growth back, and they're trying to do that now.
No, I'm asking what does Can-Do really do?
Can-Do needs to exist because there can be a turnaround. We're working now to try to bring industry back to this country. And there's going to be opportunities in the next few years to have industry come to places like Marion. And that's why we need to fund it. I said as an option to just fund half of it to satisfy maybe people that were skeptical. But Lois, who I really respect a lot, her integrity, honesty, and everything, and I want to bring it to committee. I mean, I was upset about the lease on the Roberts property. Can't do nothing about it. You know, there was an effort made to change the leadership of Can-Do. All right, Greg, it's been done. Let's move on. It's a new day. It's a new era. Let's move forward and get this thing done. Because it's one thing to build places for the homeless, but we do need economic development. And it's coming this way, slowly but surely. It's creeping its way up through Delaware County, and eventually it's going to come to us. There will be opportunities in the future. So we can't do nothing about the past. Just work for the future.
Right, fine, but
Mr.
you still haven't
Daniels.
answered the question, what can you do?
Mr. Daniels, I can answer that question. I've said it as a member of the Can-Do board. I sat in on a lot of the meetings. I've met with different companies, corporations, along with other board members. A lot of the things that Can-Do does cannot be discussed because those businesses, if they knew that you were going to blab it all over the place, they would back out.
Oh, so, let me understand this. The public, which is the city, funds Can-Do, but can't be told anything about what goes on in Can-Do.
In certain situations. Yeah, because in certain situations, there is a necessary need for lack of information, I suppose.
So I'm taking into account that Can-Do is a public-private corporation.
Has nothing to do with it. It's a lot of the information that Can-Do works with, and a lot of the people and the companies they work with are sensitive to letting their information be out. They don't want to say, we will come to your community and end up having real estate prices go through the roof, you know, on the land they want to buy. They want to keep it all quiet until they're satisfied they're ready to move in. And that's where the turnkey thing comes through.
Can I add a little bit more
Yes.
other things that Can-Do does? Planning director, and also on Can-Do board. Some of the other duties of Can-Do would be in terms of site readiness. So in the past, what we talked with regional planning, the city and the county develop industrial parks themselves. For instance, the dual rail industrial park as well as the airport industrial park. And they help market those. They help you bring the utilities to them. Right now, on the properties that are currently being marketed, they're doing and paying for the phase 1 and phase 2 studies. Trying to get them all, in essence, shovel ready so that as we market them, you know, in terms of zoning, getting things lined up so that everything that is, as far as we can take it, on behalf of a property owner to help get their property in a situation where it can be attracted to an investor in terms of bringing jobs. We've also have been working with other entities that expand, and that's usually coordinating with the city and the county on either tax increment financing projects or like the industrial projects and some of those with Jaguar. Can-Do will work with that company on what they need, and then their job is to deal with the company and bring them to the public government, such as the city or the county, to negotiate what that incentive package is, or how do we work that economically. They're usually fairly complicated, and then you help escort that project through the steps of, reimbursement, or whatever the case is for specific county commissioners. So, it's a lot of the hands-on guiding a project from when it was confidential to the point that once it is announced, now it's working its way through the system, kind of like we do with zoning or any of these other things. There's usually a lot of steps.
So it can never be public.
No, it can be. Once we get to where they're dealing with the public governments, then they have to actually file for something, and it can become public information, just like all the tax abatements are public, the tax increment financing funds are public, CRAs, those are all public. They're discussed at council, at commissioners, but usually the proprietary information, when they're purchasing land, they'll make a sign.
You understand that when we're talking about the city's government, that it's public because people sit there and put in their input as the laws and ordinances are being created and passed. What can do, it doesn't seem to be anything about that until after they decide what they're going to do, and then the public gets to, when they don't get to have any input. There's no input from the public to can do, it's made up of, you see what I'm talking about? It's not here where I can sit there and say that, and possibly in some small way, sit there in a different way. What we can do, they already make the decision, and then the public finds out about it after they pay what they pay, and they don't get to respond to it, because it's already set in stone. That's it.
Now, I've served under 3 leaders of Can Do, and I've had the same conversation with all 3, and I think the most important piece of information that we can get out of them isn't who they met with, it's why they didn't come. And never have they supplied that to us in 20 years. And again, I have had conversations with 3 directors in a row. I'm not so concerned with, you had 6 meetings and, but I want to know what each one of them said. I met with a potential factory that had 50 jobs, and they didn't come because of ABC. Because, we know we have problems, but when you live here, you look at things differently than somebody who doesn't. And somebody that comes in from the
rid of an entire shift. So if companies come and see that the largest employer in the county did away with an entire shift because they can't staff it, they're not going to be like, oh boy, let's go there. The largest employer can't get employees, but maybe we can. So we have other issues that we need to look at: education, housing, poverty, all of those things before we can bring an organization into this county that will employ 50, 100, 200 people. Because we don't have 200 people to work those jobs right now, let's be honest about it. But we can keep throwing money at the same project that has done, I don't know if they've done anything in the last decade or not. If they've brought jobs here, I've not heard of. Last year, they were driving people around the county. There were 5 spots that were supposed to be shovel-ready or about shovel-ready. And Gus Comstock came here and was telling how everyone was so excited and they were ready to move to Marion. And we have all these sites that are ready. Give me my money. And what are those? And now we're not sure if they're, are they shovel-ready? Have they made their EPA pass? Are they even able to be built at this point? Because we had Roberts, and everybody wants to make that not a big deal. I don't know who misrepresented the facts to us, but somebody misrepresented the facts for 5 years. So at this point, I'm not sure anything else that Can Do says can be taken at its word.
Thank you. Mr. Klein.
I'm just standing up because Rick Mortis is sitting there. I'm going to sound like a broken record, but seriously, think about holding funding back contingent upon Can Do getting their act together, minimizing the board, getting people who are entrepreneurs, not bureaucrats that don't create much of anything. We need people that are in manufacturing, no industry, have problems. One of the issues with Can Do is business retention. How often did the former person in charge of Can Do go around to all of the manufacturers here and say, hey, look, we're here to help you. What can we do to help you? Are you looking to expand? Do you need money to expand, get new equipment, machinery? We need to nurture those who are here as well as build a funnel full of prospects. The only thing in the past 10 years that we've gotten was FOMO. What is FOMO? Fear of missing out. Oh, you got to have this site ready for people when they want to move. That's all they ever sold, FOMO. The time is to stop. The time is to get leadership and to move forward with somebody who's going to be one hell of a good cheerleader for Marion. And one thing I would suggest, that individual should look into manufactured housing. If we could land a manufactured housing company here, just think what we could do for homeless as well as homeless around and home ownership. We've got the infrastructure. We need to start seeking out those who are building affordable housing, 3D printed houses, etc. Because we are sorely in the whole nation short of housing. And we're also, what Mr. Prater was talking about, it's more than the NAFTA, etc. The biggest threat to manufacturing in the United States is the end of the baby boomers, all of the skilled labor retiring. There's nobody to fill in. There's no one to teach. And a lot of these people today just want to punch keys on computers. We've got to really, really support OSUM, MTC, Ramtech, Tri-Rivers. We've got to get people thinking about careers in manufacturing. And again, that's where Can Do, or an entity such as Can Do, just simply jobs and economic development. No more cutesy names for stuff. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else have anything? I will say that based upon what I've heard here tonight, I'm going to ask the clerk to bring the Can Do legislation up for our next committee meeting, and everybody will have a chance to speak on it then, and let your feelings be known at that time, and we'll either send it to council or we won't. Well, we'll send it to council, but we'll recommend a yes or no. You can do that?
All right.
Nothing else? Meeting adjourned?
Which one's next?
9:13.
I gotta go. Wait. I'm gonna feel like a standing up.
Everybody's going that way.
And I was thinking even on. Wait, what about when you can use the passenger? We gotta go. I'll grab her legs and grab her shoulders.
Mark is, I think that's where Mark went, so that's why I'm waiting out here.
9 o'clock tomorrow.
Oh, he just, that's the second floor here.
Don't tell everybody about it. It's no secret. One other secret.
What are we, 10:30?
Tomorrow morning?
No, tonight.
2 more meetings? I can make this vertical quick. Yeah, that's good. Wear them down. You know what's not good? It's like having a tight back to start the day off and you have to sit in a chair for a lot of people are mowing in the rain these days.
I have no idea. I really have no idea.
Let's do legislation.
Yeah, let's do it.
No, I don't know. Zoning? Yeah, let's do zoning out here. Oh, because you can leave? No. I think it's legislation too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. That's what I thought. Let's roll. Yeah, I had to do that too. I know I have no ass, but I cannot feel my ass anymore.
I think I'm going to be sick at the next committee meetings and let Randy do this.
When did you come in today? 7. So you will take tomorrow and Tuesday. Should. Or comp it.
What's this? This is the
all the ballot
the
stuff.
charter thing.